Alright, so this is going to be a tutorial on setting up a pickup object that you can use and integrating those pickups with scripts. So here we have a flashlight that turns on when we pick it up and turns off when we drop it again. And when we pick it up, it'll spawn these kind of snowball wiffle balls and fling them in one direction. So let's get started. So in this scene here, I have a small little setup, just a wall and a little stand that I've moved a bunch of cubes and some lights. But this is more to showcase the ball launcher gun that I have here. This is just a pickup here. It's a parent object that I've given a rigid body to and a VRC pickup on it. To make this a holdable pickup, you have to set auto hold right here to yes and orientation to gun if you want it to be a you hold it in one position kind of thing, not you can hold it from any position. To give it a gun position, you need to put something in the exact gun value right here, where I just have a empty transform right here. And when you have this transform facing the right direction, you just do -90 and -90 from whatever position that was. I don't know why, but that's what you got to do. So back on here, we have, we can just hide this. We have an empty Udon behavior, and I have a trigger box collider over the entire thing. In Udon, you need to have a box collider or any form of collider on the object itself that has the VRC pickup on it. Pickups are not detected based on the colliders of the children. Lastly on this, I have a spotlight, which is just a light component hidden in the side part that we will be toggling on and off while we are holding it. And that should be it. We defaulted the light to be off, of course. Otherwise, that could be bad. So we will be spawning this object right here, which is just a sphere that I've shrunk down to 0.1. And given it a VRC pickup as well, which automatically gives it a rigid body and puts on the pickup layer. The only important thing though is that I've put a new physic material on here that I've named ball ammo, and you just create those by, in your project, right click, create physic material right here by the bottom. And the only thing I've done to it is given it a 0.5 bounciness, so that'll actually bounce when it hits a surface. And then of course I've saved this as a prefab right here so that we can select this prefab when we're spawning objects, and we can just spawn it from here instead of using a object that already exists in the world. So we'll go into our scripts folder and we'll start out with a graph, VRC Udon Graph program asset, and I will call this ball pistol graph. And we'll go onto our ball pistol and just place it right here. Now I will be using the preview build for Udon, so you'll get to see the new editor and the workflow with that. At present, I still recommend using the relatively stable current build. This one still has some problems with it because, I mean, it's a preview build. It's for people to test out and find problems. But start out with, this is it. It looks really nice. Well, okay. We have our variables box over here, and we have like a little view box, a viewport of everything. And we do everything basically by hitting space and going through quick search. If you go up to welcome over here, this will give you the welcome screen. And there's also the window you will see if you go to VRChat Udon Graph. It will just give you this window right here. I have all three of these checked. I recommend all three of them checked. But this last one is like the style, and that just gives it different coloration. I've also set grid snap size. I believe it's default to 0. I've set this to 20, and 20 is the snapping that perfectly matches the grid that Udon uses. So let's click this, which is our recent graph, and we'll just click this to reopen it. And first off, we'll need two public variables. One variable to store the object we will be spawning right here, and one variable to store the spawn point, which is a empty object that I've put right in front of the gun, which is where we will be spawning the balls at. So we'll start out with a game object, and anyone in the old graph can just follow along. You'll just be making individual nodes and stuff. Almost everything that's an update in this is just visual or workflow wise. Everything can be copied in the old version. So we'll rename our new game object to ammo, and we will set this to be public in the dropdown. Next, we will need a transform so we can get the position to spawn our object at, and we will call this spawn point, and we will also set this one to be public. Now we'll need a private variable for storing our light object as well, so we'll do a light, and we don't need to set that to public, but we do need to rename it, let's say flashlight. And then after we spawn the bullet itself, or the ball, we will need to do two things, and that's store it as a game object so we can move it around, and then we need to store its rigid body so that we can apply velocity to it. So we will need another game object, and we'll call this ball, and we'll need a rigid body, and I'll just call this RB for rigid body. Now we'll start out with the flashlight. We need to set it, the value for it, as soon as this object comes into existence. One thing that we could do is we could just set it to public and put it over here and select the spotlight over here, or we can just set it in code. So in the start event, space start, and we just select start, we can set the value of the flashlight to that component. The big thing about this variables box over here is you can just grab one and drag it out, and you have access to that variable quick. Another thing it can do, however, is you can control drag flashlight and you get set variable instead of get, which we can lock into and give it a value. We will need to give it a component grab from a transform, so we will do space, not clicked on anything, space transform get component in children, because we want to look throughout all of the objects that are a child of the object the script is on, because one of those is spotlight, and that will give us this light component. So we need to specify though that it's a light, so we drag out of type and get light and type light. There we go. And we can just drag out of this Unity object up into here. Now we have a few things here that we're not using, and since we don't care about these at all, there's a tiny little very hidden downward arrow right here that we can click, and it will hide any. All right, fixed that. Again, it's a preview build. So we don't care about any of the other ones in here, so we can just drop this, and it will hide any information that we are not presently getting access to. So now that we have the light value as flashlight, we need to set it on and off depending on if we're picking the object up or dropping it. So space pickup, event on pickup, and we will do flashlight. We'll just grab a get variable, drag out of here, and then get access to all of the light component things, and we'll search for enabled. So light set enabled. We'll bring this up here, lock that in, and we'll set this to be true. So whenever you pick this up, it'll turn the light on. Then we'll do on drop, and we'll copy this. We'll copy these, bring these two over here, and we'll just disable that toggle right there. So now it will turn the light on when you pick it up and turn the light back off when you drop it. But what we really care about is spawning our little ball and launching it. So we're going to use pickup use down to figure out when you're holding the object and then clicking it again. Pickup use down. Just put this right here. And first we need to spawn the object that we'll be using. So we'll be spawning one version of ammo. So So we'll search instantiate, hit enter, and go into the instantiate folder, and then hit enter again to get the VRChat instantiate, and we'll lock into that, and we'll give it 1 ammo. Now you could do this where you drag it out of here and just pop that into there, or you can drag it out of the original and it gives you all the things you can put into it, and the first 2 are game object variables that we've already made. So we can just give it ammo from here. As well, this gives us information about the object that we've spawned out through this node here. So we'll take this and we'll set that to be ball right here. We'll do that right there. And as well as this, to get the rigid body, we'll do get component. So that'll give us game object get component. We'll drag out of type and search rigid body. So type rigid body. Put that down here. And we'll just control drag from RB, so we can set RB, drag that in there, component, and there. So this is our first section where we spawn the object and set all of the components for it, the variables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the whole thing, right click, and do create group. So it moved it around a little bit, but this gives us just like a nice organized section of nodes that we can play around with. And I will call this spawn ball, because it's the event in which we spawn things. Next, we need to move the ball into the correct position. So we'll search transform, hit enter, and then set position and rotation. Set position and rotation is actually just a node that combines the set position and the set rotation nodes into one, which is pretty handy. We'll drag into this one. We'll grab a reference to ball, and we'll pull out this and get transform. There we go. So, whoops. There we go. So now we need to get the transform position and rotation from the spawn point. So we'll grab one out of spawn point, and we'll drag out and get position, position, not local position. And we'll do get rotation. Position in position and rotation in rotation. And I'll make another segment out of these. I guess I can move this down. Create group. Move ball. Now we need to apply velocity to the ball, and we will do that by set. And we will do that by grabbing a RB reference, pulling out of rigid body, and do set velocity. And right at the bottom we got set velocity. And this will be the one we connect through here. Put that through the instance. And now we need to tell it how to force itself to go forward. So first we need to get a reference to what this ball determines to be its forward. So we have our ball, we'll drag out and we'll do transform, so we get its transform, and then we pull out of this and do forward, so we do transform get forward, so that we know which way our ball is looking. Now, right now you could technically just pull that out and that will give it a 1 in the direction it's looking, and it will kind of just plop out really sadly. But we don't want that. We want to fling this thing. So we're going to multiply that one by doing multiply, vector3 multiply, because the forward is a vector3. And we'll multiply this, like say 20 sounds like a good number. And we'll grab the result from this and put that in here. Oop. And if any of these visual problems happen, just hit reload. There we go. We'll just make a group out of this and call this, frick, I don't know, yeet. Good enough. And there you go. That is the whole graph that we will be needing. However, there are a few things that we might want to fix right now. Due to the fact that this is a preview version, there's of course some issues. But it's also a way to highlight something else that you might want to learn for the graph editor. Whenever you compile something, you will get either a red exclamation point or a green OK right here, saying if there's any issues or not. If you hit that OK, it'll give you some information in what's called assembly, which is basically one level up from binary. And you do not need to be able to read assembly. All you need to do is look for keywords in here. So if you look all the way at the bottom, the first thing we see is VRC instantiate. You may recall that instantiate is way over here. And there's a lot more things that happened here that just didn't get caught by this. So you might try to compile a few times. You might even like reopen it here or something. Actually, like the old version of the graph, like the old version of the graph, the only way we can really fix this is to Control D, delete the old one, rename the new one to get rid of the one, plop that on our object, open it up, hit compile, and there we go. There's a whole lot more stuff here because, well, there's a lot more stuff in here. So over here, we will give it the ammo, which is the ball ammo prefab I have here. And spawn point, we will give that the spawn point transform. Come back to our scene here. We can, actually, we'll just apply this as a prefab, get everything set up, Control save, well, Control S to save, and we'll try it out in VRChat. All right, so here we are in VRChat. We have our little gun object here. We can pick it up, and we can see the little halo from the flashlight when we pick it up, and it goes away when we drop it. And we pick it up, we can start clicking, and it's spawning our little objects in the direction we're pointing, and giving them a little bit of a fling. Yeah, we can just keep spawning this as much as we want, and it works. One difference, though, between Udon and triggers for pickups, and I don't know if this was an intended difference or what, but if you run up and pick it up, you cannot use like the click effect of it for the first 1 second you picked it up. It will instead wait and then it will start doing it. So I pick it up and you'll see there's a few clicks that it just doesn't register for that. As well, if you pick it up and just hold down instead of like letting go as soon as you pick it up, it'll automatically fire the on pickup use down trigger. So I didn't click it again, but it did shoot. And that's fine. It should be unnoticeable. I'm just uncertain as to why they would have changed it, but whatever. Let's head back and do the UdonSharp version of this script. So back in our scripts folder, we'll do create UdonSharp script, and I'll just call this ball pistol. And we'll let Unity figure out, oh, hey, there's a new script. Better do something with that. So we'll go to our ball pistol, drag this in over here, and we can just double click the C# script right here to start editing it. All right, I have it open up in Visual Studio Code, sorry. So we can get started here and give it the variables we need. So we'll start with a public game object ammo, so we can spawn our ammo, and a public transform spawn point, and we'll give ourselves a private light flashlight. Now these will actually be the only three variables that we need, as the rigid body and game object variables that we used for the bullet can be set in the event where we spawn them and deleted as soon as that's done, so we don't need to save them here. That's simply just not a feature that you can do in base Udon at the moment, but you can do it in UdonSharp. So in start, we'll set our flashlight to be flashlight equals get component in children light. Give those carrots and everything, and that gives us our light. So we'll first go down to private void on pickup. Now you'll see it gives you a little yellow underline. That's just like, oh, you're overriding something that already exists. That's because I didn't type instead public override void on, let's do drop this time. These both work exactly the same. This one is just less typing, and I could ignore the yellow underlined. Both of these do exactly like the same layout wise, using public override void or private void. It's the same, it doesn't matter. So on pickup, we will do flashlight.enabled equals true, and in private void on drop, we'll do flashlight.enabled equals false. Now for the fun one, we'll go into private void on pickup use down. These are again all named the same thing as their nodes in Udon. But if you want to know anything about specific event names, you can control click on UdonSharp behavior up here, and this will just bring you to a big thing of a bunch of code. You can ignore all this and just scroll to the bottom, and you have a list of all the different events that you can use. Interact, on drop, pickups, on player join, all these VRChat specific events. Heading back, we can just do in here, and we'll actually start out by setting a ball var variable. So we'll do var ball, which is a new variable we're naming ball, equals VRC instantiate ammo. So this will instantiate a new object using the ammo game object prefab, and it will save this object as ball, the same way we did earlier, but here we're doing it with a variable that will be trashed as soon as this event is done and not keep up any more information than we need to. We will also do a new var rb equals ball dot get component rigid body, so that we have access to the rigid body for applying velocity. First though, we need to move ball to the spawn point position, because when you spawn a object, it just puts it at 0, 0 using this. So we need to do ball.transform.position equals spawn point.position, and ball.transform.rotation equals spawn point.rotation. So now it's moved into position. We can give it the velocity we need, and rb.velocity equals ball.transform.forward times 20. There you go. And that will be everything that we did in those nodes, just in a couple lines of text. Control S, and we will come back in here. We'll let it recompile here for a second. All right, so we'll give the ammo, the ball ammo prefab, and in here we will put spawn point in spawn point. And just to be safe, compile all UdonSharp behaviors because I'm paranoid. VRChat SDK, and we'll launch into game. All right, back in game, we can do the same test we did before. Pick it up. We got light from the flashlight, and we drop it. We got no light from the flashlight. Pick it up, we spawn it, and they shoot out. It does the exact same as the graph version, only it took a lot less time to set up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I know it's been a little while since the last tutorial, but I hope you enjoy.